Yeah, it's been incredibly moving, Marnie. It's been incredibly powerful to hear from these Epstein victims, whom they themselves call themselves survivors, very intentionally. They've been talking about what it was like, their own stories, many of them as they approach the microphone, holding up pictures of themselves as teenagers, 14 years old, 15 years old, when they first met and were victimized by Jeffrey Epstein. And they have been basically making demands of every lawmaker up to the President of the United States to pass this, to sign it into law, to be on their side, and to support the full disclosure of these files, and to hold those who were offended, who offended them, to account. Again, it has been powerful. And what's really remarkable, Marnie, is you and I talked a couple months ago as these same group of survivors were here. At that moment, it honestly seemed pretty unlikely that they were going to have this bill this way pass successfully. They were facing headwinds from the Speaker of the House, who would not put a bill on the floor. They were facing headwinds from the White House, who very much opposed this. President Trump, up until a couple of days ago, was trying to cut this effort off at the beginning and get people who signed onto the petition to get this bill to the floor to take their names off of that petition. So they have had a lot of opposition, and it is in no small part credit to them, who have continued to tell their stories and urge lawmakers to support this. That is the reason that we are here today, where now the reality has totally changed. And you're probably going to get a vast majority of the House voting for their petition. I just want to point out a couple things because I think it puts it into the proper perspective here. Ro Khanna, the Democrat here, said nobody who is in these files who has committed crimes should have their names on buildings, should be lionized, should have scholarships in their names. These are incredibly powerful and wealthy people. And he said, these victims will tell you privately that many of those things were already still happening for some of the people who were working alongside Jeffrey Epstein. Thomas Massie made the point today, the Republican here who led this effort, that they were facing up against the president, the vice president, the Speaker of the House, the Department of Justice, and the FBI director. He said all of them are on their side now, but just a couple of days ago were not. And Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, you already played what she said as she came out. I will tell you, every single victim survivor that we saw, when Marjorie Taylor Greene got up to the microphone, they cheered for her because she has frankly been taking a lot of arrows for this effort from people on her own side of the aisle for her efforts in this. And they have clearly shown some appreciation for that. So it really is an incredible moment here. And again, I just stress that we expect this vote is going to pass the House with a huge majority. Probably doesn't happen without these victims and survivors speaking out the way they have. It's unclear what happens to this vote after it leaves the House. Does the Senate take it up? Does the president sign it? If the Senate takes it up, those are still unknowns. But today, there is going to be a huge vote in favor of this petition.
Yeah, and then does it compel or require the DOJ to release all of the files? There's a lot of steps that have to take place between now and then. The about face from the president, I mean, he has called this a distraction, but spoke on the matter this week about his change of heart. What more did he say, Joe?
Well, he effectively said that he wants to see an investigation done, but he particularly said of the Democrats, and he named people like Larry Summers, people like President Clinton, and he said now, again, in a shift of position, that Republicans should support this bill and should vote for it. And he actually did commit to signing it. He did say that. We heard at least one survivor say she was skeptical about the motivation there. There is going to be a lot of political pressure on the White House. If this bill passes the House overwhelmingly and ends up being taken up in the Senate, there will be significant pressure. This is not going to be one of those bills that will be allowed to sit on the president's desk and people will forget about it because of the nature of this. So, again, there, I think, is going to be a lot there that we're waiting to see about what happens after this thing passes the House. But it doesn't appear in any way as though the people who are championing this effort are going to let it fall by the wayside.